On today's episode of the 1 Year Life Challenge, we talk about being smart and getting smarter and what wisdom is. Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about getting smarter, but more importantly being wise. We're going to challenge the traditional notion of school, which is bolting on facts, and we're going to look at wisdom, and we're going to talk about when to be smart, when it's a good idea to be smart, and when it's a good idea to use that information. We all know using the wrong information at the wrong time gets you nowhere, or even worse, it's backtracking you. So let's talk about intelligence, let's talk about what it means to be smart, and let's talk about how we can use it in our lives most importantly. So as always, I'm going to begin with a quote on the subject, and that quote is, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul, which opens to that primeval cosmic night that was so long before there was a conscious ego and will be so far beyond what a conscious ego could ever reach." Carl Jung, The Meaning of Psychology in Modern Man. Carl Jung was an incredible individual, very intelligent individual, but he subscribed to the ancient knowing that humans have had for about 12,000 years that there's a universal intelligence. We all know that. We know that the sun uses nuclear fusion to deliver us energy, but we've been working on nuclear fusion for 50 years and we can't do it, and we consider ourselves really intelligent. So there's an intelligence out there that gets things done, and tapping into that and allowing that to come into you defeats any sort of intelligence you can come up with. So I want to talk about this collective unconscious. We've touched on it briefly in some other videos, but I really want to explore this because it's an incredible insight. So the quote on the collective unconscious I have is, "Collective unconscious is a term coined by Carl Jung. It refers to structures of the unconscious mind which are shared among beings of the same species. According to Jung, the human collective unconscious is populated by instincts and by archetypes. Universal symbols such as the Great Mother, the Wise Old Man, the Shadow, the Tower, water, the Tree of Life, and many more." So I was flabbergasted as a young kid, and I started to understand the collective unconscious without reading any Jung. I was to read a lot of Jung later, but I remember being a kid and I was watching a documentary on bees, and they were talking about the hexagonal shape of the honeycomb of bees is one of the strongest forms of building. In fact, that honeycomb shape is copied on cardboard all through the world in construction techniques. The honeycomb system that bees use is copied, and they said it's precise, it's perfect, it's deliberate, it's incredibly strong, and it's the smartest way to build. And I went, okay, well, good on the bees for working this out. And then as I watched the documentary, I noticed a bee larvae which had been laid turned into a bee. That bee pops out of its little cocoon, cruises out, gets some pollen, comes back, and starts helping building these perfect hexagons. Who taught this bee how to build perfect hexagons? It's geometrically perfect. The maths behind it is perfect. Who taught this bee? Obviously, it's tapping into a collective unconscious through its DNA and through its feedback through nature. And if a bee can build the strongest structures on Earth, and we've got, engineering people who, go to, schools for 10, 15, 20 years and our buildings still fail, there's something to know about that. So let's talk about this in depth. I'm going to go through about 10 points on the collective unconscious and how it can benefit you. So when people say to you, oh, it's all silly, you're all in your mind, you've got to think for yourself, you've got to be selfish, the universal constant is something that I like to bring up. So the universal constant is important to know. There's parameters for how the universe is built. In fact, when we put together the parameters for how a universe should be built by physicists, they look at it and they go, wow, it's hard to build a universe. It's hard to build a universe that doesn't simply poof out of existence immediately or burn itself up. You need very specific numbers and data to create a universe that works, that supports life. And the universal constant we have is a mathematical equation that says what are the parameters, what parameters have to be available to form life in the universe. And what we found, as I've said this in other videos, is that if you were to change that mathematical formula by even 1/nth of a degree, we'd all instantly poof, disappear into vapor. So there is a code, there's an intelligence written to the universe, and it's perfect, and we should trust it. The other story I want to share with you is the 101st monkey. So this is an incredible story. It was an island off Japan where monkeys had been eating sweet potatoes. And there were scientists on different islands of Japan which had this monkey, which was, I believe, an endangered monkey. You can Google this as well, it's incredible. And they're observing the monkeys and looking at its habits. And one day, a monkey went down to the beach and started washing a sweet potato at the beach and peeling its skin, which is quite a good idea, a great way to get the skin off. But this had never been observed in nature before. So what would happen is that it was being observed, and the people watching on that particular island were writing it down. But what they found even more incredible is the next day, the grandmother of the infant monkey started washing the potato. And the scientists got to observe how this entire community of primates were now washing. They'd learnt this new skill from this child. Where did it come from? They don't know. But they're washing this potato. What's even more incredible is that once 100 of the primates within that island ecosystem had learnt how to wash sweet potatoes, immediately, hundreds of kilometers away on another island, scientists start observing monkeys washing, for the first time ever, sweet potatoes at the beach. What had happened? How had that idea somehow, because obviously monkeys don't have radio or internet or they don't even have contact on these islands. How did that happen? How did that energy transfer? We all have feelings sometimes, you know, so many people talk about when a relative dies and they just knew something was wrong. So important to trust in this, because we're starting to observe through science that ideas don't just exist here, they exist out there. The other one, for me, which just reinforces the universal intelligence behind us, is the pyramids. You know, the concept of building a pyramid is not unique. It was, though, you know, the Inca, the Aztecs, the South Americans, and obviously the Egyptians, separated by thousands of kilometers, never to meet each other, never to have any contact, were building pyramids. That style was not an easy style to build in, and therefore there must be something unique woven into the humans about pyramids. And the other one is fashion. You know, I understand now that we have the internet and we have Kim Kardashian telling us, you know, what smoky eye to put on and stuff like that. But isn't it incredible that hundreds of years ago fashions would just tear through the world before there was any mass communication? I believe, when I look at fashion, I believe that something's happened. Someone who is a very powerful soul somewhere started doing something, and we've started resonating with that and trying to be like that person in order to be on the same frequency. I see it all the time. I'm not sure if you've seen how quickly these trends move. I notice it in sunglasses. You know, it's almost every couple of months there's new sunglasses coming in, and the trends move so quickly. So the other way that I understand that there's a universal intelligence, God is in the details. Everywhere we look, from a scientific perspective, the closer and closer we look at the sub-molecular makeup of atoms, we start to notice there's empty space and there's void. And there has to be a level of creation from that void. Therefore, there's something going on. There's an intelligence in void, which is nothingness, that can create somethingness. But there has to be intelligence there. Nothingness cannot create somethingness unless there's an intelligence driving it. So how can we use this? Well, I consider it an invisible storehouse of ideas. You always hear about writers going into the forest and just being struck with an idea. We've all gone for a walk and been in the shower and just had an amazing idea when we haven't thought about it. The universe keeps its physical equations, the equations that work, the things that work are all there. And we just need to be quiet and allow it to tap into us. So often we stress ourselves out so much trying to come up with the perfect answer to something, which is just mind-made thoughts, but quite often the perfect answer finds us. I think it was Rumi who said, what you are seeking is also seeking you. Now, how do you use this? Well, knowledge in the moment is key. In Zen, there's an idea of spontaneous action. And what I mean is that rather than planning your conversation you're going to have with someone, rather than trying to work out how to manipulate someone or how to say certain things to make them happy or sad, just be completely present, mindful, intent, and allow yourself to respond from how you feel in the moment. If you respond in the moment, your reaction is always right, because you're responding in the moment. Where things go wrong is where people bring in preconceived belief systems like, this person's going to rip me off, and as soon as someone says something about money, they jump on them. They haven't responded. They've formulated a response and not allowed the universal intelligence to help them. Archetypes. So one of the things we've talked about in previous videos is there's archetypes. Quite often when I'll meet, if, for example, I might go on a date and I'll meet a woman and I'll go, wow, this is like the archetype of the vixen. I've seen this before, I've seen how this plays out, and it normally always plays out that way. I used to laugh with my friends and go, I think God's run out of characters in my life because I'm meeting so many people. But the reality is that we do conform to the hero's journey, which is we all take on these identities and roles which are easiest for humans to play. And there's only a few of them. Understanding them is really important. You might want to check out my video on the 7 archetypes of human behavior. Another thing we need to understand about intelligence is it's really popular to demonize Adolf Hitler, which is fair enough because the guy was like a Looney Tune and murdered lots and lots of people. But one of the things we do in society is we like to take people like Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and say these guys are baddies, they're real bad dudes, they don't belong to the human race, they're evil. Quite often I hear words like monster used, and they're no good. what we need to be aware of is that the universe contains both good and bad, and everything that can happen, and every thought that could be thought is thought. And by rejecting these notions, going, oh, no one, there'll never be Hitler again, he was crazy, what we're doing is we're basically setting ourselves up for another Hitler, because we treat them like they don't exist. We treat them so rare and so abnormal that they'll only come around once in a million years, but we all have a little bit of Hitler in us. We really do, and we need to appreciate that and say, I understand there's a dark side to me, but I understand that I live through joy, therefore I defeat that dark side. The ancient Indian saying, the American Indian saying, which is that we live with two wolves, and there's a wolf, a white wolf of good, and a black wolf of death. And when the child asked the master, well, which wolf wins in the end? And he goes, the wolf that you feed. And that's really important to know, that if you feed your negative energy, you feed your fears, you can become that black wolf. Now, this moves on to Carl Jung's theory of the shadow. So the shadow is our shadow self. It's the self that we choose to reject every single day. We have feelings, emotions, thoughts, and we reject those. And we build this big shadow behind us of all the things we don't accept about ourselves. And we think we're fine because it's our shadow, it's not ourselves. But as that shadow gets bigger, it blocks all the light from entering us. And it's a great analogy to, listen, we're not perfect. No one's perfect. It's so important to acknowledge we all have dark sides. We all get angry. We all, get pissed off from time to time. And to know that that's simply something that comes from the moment. Hanging on to it will manifest it more and more and more, and trying to throw it away will make it come back. It's like a boomerang. And finally, what is smart? These people who can recite facts, is that smart? Because we've got computers now. How to be happy is smart. We talk about uncivilized Amazon tribes who don't have bombs, who don't, go around murdering each other, who have free education, who love each other and live amazing, healthy lives. And we say, oh, they're uncivilized. Being smart means being happy to me. If I'll give you a choice, would you like to be a genius and be completely miserable, or be a simpleton and have the most fun you could ever have? Of course, you take the most fun. So looking at being happy is really important. And those around you who are unhappy, don't ask them for advice on intelligent questions. Ask the people who are happy, because that's what we really want to be in the end. Something to think about. The universal intelligence, makes these videos. I don't. I stand here and wait for it to come through me. I can't wait to see you till tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.